four lovely young ladies, getting this sample brochure. And I said, "Are you guys all recruiters?" "Yeah." "How did you know?"
All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started, if everybody's good with that. Now, this is going to be partially conversational, so you may want to migrate towards the front of the room-ish, or be able to speak kind of from the diaphragm, right? Like really belt it out. Act like you're on stage at the Apollo. So DevOps on multiple platforms. Give you a quick introduction to who I am. I'm Devlin Lyles, VP of Consulting at Improving. Husband, father, Christian, improver. Those are really the only things you need to know about me. Improver to me is more than I work for a company named Improving, and the puns are endless. It is a passionate dedication to learning new things. And so there are tons of improvers. Some of them work for us, some of them don't. But an improver is somebody that is dedicated to getting better throughout their life. I grew up in a house where my dad said a day on earth where you don't learn something is a day that you waste. And so you'll see that throughout this. I'm a published author. I throw that out there because, well, I hope you buy the book. I get like 8 cents every 1,000 copies or something. I'm going to give you my DevOps credentials, because every time I've seen a DevOps talk, they always talk about these things as best practices and patterns. I'm like, yeah, I've done that and it doesn't work. Like, how does that function? And so my opinions, because DevOps is really one of those weird things right now that's still coming into its own. Nobody really has a good definition for it. It's like Agile a decade and a half ago. And so I have worked in Java, .NET, others is Python, PHP, and Ruby. Unix, Windows, a little bit of Mac OS. I'll tell you, I'm not a big Mac fan. Like, it's like Unix, but with a lot of roadblocks. So I didn't enjoy it so much. So I ended up dual booting into Ubuntu on my MacBook. And so I've done hundreds of thousands of builds for my stuff, for my clients, and those clients are building everything from native apps on Android and iOS to Java apps to large enterprise .NET systems that integrate with Java-based ESBs. And so it's kind of a really heterogeneous mixture of work over the last decade. And I've made thousands of mistakes. And that one is really the one that you're here for. Because I call this learn from Devlin's mistakes. It is way cheaper to learn from my mistakes than to make them yourself. So we're going to learn from my mistakes today. Now, I'm going to set an agenda and also set kind of a clear understanding of what the next hour is going to look like for us so that everybody that's in here can get what they need out of it. We're going to talk about introductions. Congrats, we just made it through that. Everybody feeling good? Check it off. Yeah? All right. And then we're going to define the problem with DevOps on multiple platforms. We're going to define the problem with DevOps overall. And then we're going to dive into what the evolution looks like. DevOps is not a bit value. DevOps is definitely something that evolves. And then the tools and the skills that you have to have, the pitfalls that go with those, and the patterns and the practices that will help you get through a DevOps implementation so that you're building better software faster and more consistently. It's going to be pretty high level. There's going to be some conversation. I do have a Node-based app and a Java-based app running on my Windows box, a Ubuntu box that I run through Docker, as well as some Azure-based pieces. I don't know if anybody has tried, but the Wi-Fi here is awesomely fast. So the cloud-based pieces of the talk, we may skip. So just a heads up, if that doesn't meet with your expectation, I promise I will take horrible offense if you leave. No, I'm kidding, I won't. But just let everybody know that's what we're going to be doing. All good? Awesome. So let's get a level set of the room. How many folks work in a primarily non-Windows environment? Primarily non-Windows. Okay, so one guy. Unix, Linux-ish. Okay, what flavors?
Red Hat.
Red Hat. Okay, Red Hat Enterprise?
Yeah.
Or just Red Hat?
No, we still have about 1,000 SAR systems, and the other 40,000 are Red Hat.
Okay.
There's a smattering of AIX.
Oh, awesome. I worked a lot on AIX a long time ago. I don't list it on my resume because there's a rule that you don't list anything you don't want to do again. And so, good deal. So most everybody else is in a primarily Windows environment. Yes? Okay, so Windows environment, what kind of apps are you building? Is that .NET apps? Is that Java-based, JavaScript-based apps, Java-based apps? Show of hands, like who's in .NET? Okay, so about half the room. Java on Windows. Okay, about 5.
Java on Linux.
Java on Linux, okay. JavaScript-based apps, Node.js backends, Angular front ends, could be Angular over .NET APIs. That one's becoming more and more and more prevalent. Okay, awesome. For the website folks, IIS or Apache? Or, Tomcat? I like Tomcat. Tomcat's lightweight. Tomcat is also now supported by Windows Azure, which I get for free, and I love it. I like AWS, but they don't give it to me for free. So, there's that. Awesome. So now that we kind of have the level set, we're going to talk through the problem. Let me introduce you to the problem. The problem is people like us. How many folks in here primarily develop software for a living? Like hands-on keyboard writing code? Okay? When I say people like us, I mean you. How many people administer or manage teams that write software? Manage builds, deployments, getting into prod, ops management? Keep your hands up a little bit. Okay. When I say people like us, I mean people like you too. Okay? How many folks test for a living? Nobody wants to claim it. If you're writing software, the folks that said you were writing code for a living and you're not testing, you scare me. Okay? Right? Writing unit test is testing. So here's the funny part about it. It's a little fuzzy, but this is the problem. You know what the solution is? People like us that are a lot sharper. Right? We have to solve this problem. This is not a problem that gets solved by technology, by process, by practices. There's no Scrum guide that's going to be developed that says if you follow these 15 steps, have these 12 meetings, you're there, you're golden for DevOps, because it depends. And I'm a consultant, so it depends is like my favorite sentence. But it really does, right? If you've got primarily JS developers, is picking PowerShell as your local automation solution a good idea? Maybe not. You might want to go with Grunt or Gulp, right? If you've got primarily .NET developers, is picking Bash scripts the greatest idea in the world? Maybe not, right? You can run Bash on Windows. There was an awesome talk by Paul DiCarlo earlier today about how to actually run Bash on Windows and have a Ubuntu GUI on Windows. I think he actually brings up Quake and plays it on Linux. Okay, that's cool. But the problem is us, and we've just got to get a little bit sharper and pay a little bit more attention to the edges. And this touches on an evolution that is happening in our industry that has baffled me. It baffled me because everybody seems surprised by it at the same time that they're underwhelmed. They're like, of course, but then it's surprising, right? How many folks did the primary way that you tested and validated software 5 years ago was manual testing, right? That was it for me. When I went into clients, when I went to companies, manual testing was it. How many folks work in a place that does no automation testing whatsoever right now? Okay. So here's the thing. That's not the same number of people. Automation testing is kind of this evolution. But when I talk to QA folks, I'm like, are you learning automation? The vast majority of them go, no, I'm a manual tester. I'm like, whoa. Okay, so we all used to do manual testing. Most of us are now in a shop that's moving towards automation. Why are we not all learning automated testing? And by all, I mean C# devs like me, or Java devs like me, or JavaScript devs like me, because guess what? There are testing frameworks in all those languages, right? And so it brought me to this idea of, wow, nobody seems surprised by the movement, but everybody thinks that it's a movement that they don't personally have to deal with, right? COBOL developers thought the same thing, and that didn't go well. The Y2K thing probably kept them employed for another decade, but there's not a lot of places that are like, we are hardcore recruiting for hundreds of COBOL developers. There's not a lot. There's still a few, right? And this is that thing of, these are the waves in our system, right? Even the PMP has an Agile certification now, right? The PMI has an Agile certification. It's actually pretty good, right? You've got Scrum.org, you've got Scrum Alliance, you've got these different organizations. I'm a big fan of scrum.org. I think they're the right way to go. I'm one of their trainers. That's the disclaimer. And so project management had this wave, and a lot of people went, oh, Agile's that movement, but I don't have to care. How many folks have had the last month, the word Agile, Scrum, Lean, Kanban, any of those have not come up in the last month? Inside your office, inside the groups of people you talk to, those kind of things, right? It's become so prevalent in our industry, and that was another adoption wave of the same style. So when you look at like QA automation, you see that. Anybody not building with a CI right now? Like you checking code, but you don't have an automated way to verify it.